Jane, as soon as I am dressed, I shall go to Meryton and tell my sister Phillips. Oh, ring the bell for Hill. And Erin would do me a great deal of good, I'm sure. Oh, and I shall call on Lady Lucas and Mrs. Long. Oh, Jane! Jane, it's such wonderful news. Oh, where is Hill? Oh, Hill, have you heard the good news?
Shut the door, Lizzie.
And you shall have a bowl of punch to make merry at her.
Someone at least finds pleasure in these events.
But considering what we thought only a few hours ago, it's not so bad, is it? Do you think my uncle had to pay out a great deal of money?
I do. Wickham's a fool if he takes her with a farthing less than £10,000.
£10,000? Heaven forbid. How is half such a sum to be repaid?
I wish I had laid by an annual sum to bribe worthless young men to marry my daughters, but I have not, I confess. The reason was, of course, I intended to father a son. The son would inherit the estate, no part of which would be entailed away, so providing for my widow and any other children. By the time your mother and I had abandoned hope of producing an heir, it seemed a little late to begin saving.
You could not have foreseen this, Father.
I should have taken better care of you all. The satisfaction of prevailing upon one of the most worthless young men in Britain might then have rested in its proper place. As it is, the thing is done with extraordinary little inconvenience to myself. When you take into account what I shall save on Lydia's board and pocket allowance, I'm scarcely £10 a year worse off. I'm heartily ashamed of myself, Lizzie. But don't despair. It'll pass. And no doubt more quickly than it should.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here in the sight of God.
Mr. Wickham is to resign from the militia and go into a northern regiment. Happily, there are still some among his former friends who are willing to assist him in purchasing a commission. I have written to Colonel Forster to request that he will satisfy Mr. Wickham's creditors in Brighton, for which I have pledged myself.
Perhaps you will be so good as to do the same for his creditors in Meryton, of whom I enclose a list according to his information. I hope at least he has not deceived us. Let us all hope so. As soon as they are married, they will journey directly to join his regiment in Newcastle, unless they are first invited to Longbourn.
Oh, yes, my dear Mr. Bennet, of course they must come here. I long to see my dear Lydia. And dear Wickham, too, of course.
But it is shocking that poor Lydia should have been sent away from Brighton, and such a favourite among all the officers. There were several of the young men there, you know, that she liked very much.
And they will miss her as much as she will miss them. These northern officers may not be quite so pleasant.
My dear Mrs. Bennet, I'm sure our youngest daughter will have no difficulty in finding friends as silly as she is in Newcastle. She has a talent for making a spectacle of herself wherever she goes.
But if they are to leave Brighton, they should come to Hertfordshire and reside in the neighbourhood. Hay Park might do, if the Goldings would quit it. Or the great house at Stoke, if the drawing rooms were larger.
Or Purvis Lodge.
Oh, no, dear, not Purvis Lodge. The attics there are dreadful.
Mrs. Bennet, before you take any or all of these houses, let us come to a right understanding. Into one house in the neighbourhood they shall never have admittance. Mr. and Mrs. Wickham will never be welcome to Longbourn.
Since we were at Longbourn, and here you all are, just the same.
Oh, my dear Lydia! Fast! Oh, I do believe you've grown. Oh, how we've missed you.
Oh, we've been far too merry to miss any of you. Well, here we are. Haven't I caught myself a handsome husband?
Indeed you have,